Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mohawk Regional Information Center's Summer Professional Development Series of 2020. My name is Derek Lalone. I'm one of the Model Schools coordinators here at the Mohawk Regional Information Center. And before we get started, I just want to give everybody a brief overview of some of the sessions that we're going to be holding this summer in a virtual way. Okay, so getting started, we're going to jump into our upcoming live sessions. So those are the sessions that you're in right now. They're going to be conducted through YouTube Live, and you'll have the chat feature available to you. And these aren't all the offerings that we have just this summer, just the most recent ones that are coming up. So, always be sure to kind of, keep an eye out for the new sessions that are coming out later. But for right now, we have on July 13th at 9 a.m., we have Google from a student's point of view. On July 16th at 1 p.m., we have Gamify Virtual Learning with Classcraft. On July 20th at 1, we have Creative Uses of Google Sheets. And like I said, be sure to keep an eye out on morac.org/pd for any of the additional offerings that we have coming out this summer. The next portion we have is the upcoming virtual meetings. So these are meetings that are going to occur through Zoom, which is going to allow you a little more opportunity to be able to interact and communicate within those sessions rather than just the chat feature that we have through YouTube Live. So to announce some of those sessions, we have on July 16th, Virtual Meeting Faux Pause. So this just talks about a lot of the different things that we can do to make video conferencing most beneficial while we're in live sessions. Be sure to check that out. On July 28th at 10 a.m., we have Building Relationships with Students in an Online Environment. So be sure to, hop into that one and be able to kind of share your thoughts and, the pros and cons of, what did work, what didn't work, and vice versa. And then on July 30th at 10, we have Motivating Students in an Online Environment. So not only do we have the building relationship piece, but it's how to keep our students motivated in this online virtual world of learning that we find ourselves in. On August 4th at 10, we have Maximizing Virtual Manipulatives in Elementary Mathematics. So this one's much more focused in the elementary mathematics area, but be sure to check that one out, especially if you're a math teacher. And even if you're not an elementary math teacher, come check it out and see if any of the tools that we use, you could use within your classrooms as well. So finally, the last piece we have here is the upcoming online courses. So we are offering some online course offerings this summer, and to kind of go through those, and these are just quick overviews. July 6th, we start a digital breakouts online course. July 9th, we have Motivating Students with Technology. July 13th is a Google Level 1 certification prep course that is all online. So I suggest if you want that certification to check that out. On July 14th is Choose Your Own Adventure Game, so how to build Choose Your Own Adventure activities. And then on July 20th, we're starting an online course for Google Sites for Beginners. July 27th, Motivating Students with Technology. And then finally on August 11th, Google Sites, More Than a Website. So be sure to check those out at morac.org/pd. And the times on the online courses vary. So some of them are a week long, some of them are 2 weeks long, but be sure to kind of check those out and check out the scopes that are available. So with that, that's all we have to kind of conclude the upcoming sessions that we have. And now we're going to turn it over to Heather Schaefer for today's presentation.
Hey everyone, I'm Heather Schaefer. I'm a Model Schools coordinator with the Mohawk Regional Information Center. Today we're going to talk about Google My Maps, and also, bonus, we're going to be talking about Google Earth as well. And specifically, we're going to be talking about how we can create things in both of those tools. So you and your students can work together, you can collaborate just like any other Google tool. And it all works with Google Classroom, and it's so much fun. One of my favorite hidden gems that most people don't realize even exists. So let's go ahead and dive in. So first of all, I'd like to kind of explain the difference between the different Google Maps tools. There are a few. Google My Maps specifically is the one that you can customize and you can create things in, and is part of your G Suite educational account. Google Maps, like the regular one, is just the tool that you would use if you were going on vacation and you wanted to know how to get to where you're going, like navigation and traffic and looking up food in hotels and all of that stuff. When you use Google Maps on your phone, for example, it knows where you are. It uses your location services and gives you directions to places and such. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Google My Maps and just creating and plotting on a map. Google Earth has a similar feature to Google My Maps where you can create a project. And we will talk about both of those and how they integrate with Google Classroom and Google Drive, and the similarities and differences between the two, because you may want to choose one over the other depending on what kind of map you're creating. One of the reasons that I love these tools so much is because it really helps students to be creative and think outside the box, and also use data and geography skills to, tell a story. So let's just dive right in. Alrighty, so starting in your Google Drive, this is one way that you can get to Google My Maps. So when you go to the New button in Google Drive and you scroll down past Docs and Sheets and Slides and go to More, you have Google My Maps as an option. So you can just click there to create a new map. The other option would be if you wanted to just, open a new tab and go to google.com/mymaps. It will take you to a page that shows just the My Maps that you have saved in your Google Drive. And of course, you can look through what you own, what has been shared with you, your recents, and so on. So just wanted to throw that out there. So when you first open a brand new Google My Map, it looks like this. And so on the left is where you're going to start building out what you want on your map. And then these tools right here are the different types of things that you can add to your map. So you can also zoom in and out down in the bottom left. You can zoom in and out depending on what you want to show on your map. So if you were mapping something in the United States, for example, this would be perfect because you could show different locations in the United States. But if you're talking specifically about New York, you might want to, scroll over to New York, and you can double tap to zoom in too. And you might want to just start off with that. It's totally up to you. One thing to consider when you're first starting your map is the base map, which is down here at the bottom. And there's a little drop-down menu, and you can see the different options that you have. So if I chose this one, for example, it would look like this. You can do different colors, different views. This one's the default one, whatever, you like. The other thing is that you want to give your map a title, and you can put a description in there too. Demo map, we'll call it. All right, and just like with any other Google Doc, you can share it and you can collaborate. So if your students are using this as an assignment, you can have them working together within a single map, which is really awesome. So over here you have your share button, and just like anything else, I can invite, whoever, right? I'm not actually going to do it, but you can give them rights as an editor, and then they'd be able to help collaborate on building your map. If you are going to be sharing your map at the end, you're going to want to make sure that the public can view it. So down here, Google has recently changed their share settings a little bit. So people will often look down here and they'll be like, oh, I can only share it with people in my organization. No, that's not true. You actually have to click on the words get link, and it opens up this new box, and then you have more options. So I'm going to go to anyone with the link and can view, because these are people that are just looking at it, not collaborating with me, and hit done. All right, let's start having some fun. So over here, you'll see it starts off with an untitled layer, and you can build your map with several different layers. And what that does is it allows you to kind of organize your pins and your different information that you're adding onto your map. And then you can turn those layers on and off using these check boxes to see specific things at different times. So that can be very, very helpful. And you can rename your layer. I don't know, schools. And you can start adding stuff. And you can add another layer that rename. And we can call this, I don't know, lakes. Whatever you're mapping, and you can see how that builds a layer for each. Then you start adding your pins. So let's just zoom in here. I'm going to go to, let's see here, do Oneida because that's where my office is located. And I'm going to click on the pin because I want to add a pin there. And actually, before I do that, I want the actual school. So you can zoom in or out as much as you want depending on how detailed. If I wanted to pin Oneida, that would have been fine, but I actually want to pin the school. Here's Oneida High School, so I'm going to click pin, drop it there, and call it Oneida High School. And then I can type in anything I want in this box, anything that's a text, anything that's a hyperlink. If you're doing a research project, you can put all of your details there. You could put links to websites in there. You could even, use, if you're a Screencastify user, you can create a Screencastify video and link the video in the description there. So just for sake of time, and I'm going to show you an actual map that I created that has purpose in a moment. I'm just showing you how to use the tool right now. I'm just going to put the word description in there and hit save. And once I do that, you'll see you have all of these other options here. So the paint can option allows you to change the pin. So you can change the color of it, to whatever color you want. So let's say I wanted orange. And down here you can change the icon and you can click more to get whatever you want. So let's see if they have an icon specific to schools. It looks like they have people walking. Good enough. And say okay. And you can see how it changed to a circle with people walking and orange. Also, if you needed to edit the name or the description, you could hit the pencil button and it'll bring you back in there and you can do that. You can click the image button, the little camera, to upload images. So this is where your students can start being really creative. They can search the web. So I don't have any personal pictures of Oneida High School. So I'm going to search the web and see what comes up. So it looks like we have a bunch of different things here. I'm going to choose this one, and then I'm going to hit the plus button, and I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to choose like that one. And you can keep going. You can add as many pictures as you would like, and it creates like a little mini slideshow that can be scrolled through. And then of course you can create directions to here if you wanted to. And when you do that, it actually creates a new layer. So it puts Oneida High School as your destination and it leaves, whatever open. So let's say I was going from VVS High School to Oneida High School. All right, and then it shows you the driving directions. You could also change it to bicycling or walking if you wanted to. But anyway, and you can continue to add things like, since I just put VVS in there, let's go back to the schools and let's drop a pin on VVS High School. So we have multiple pins to show. Hold on a second. There we go. And just like before, you can go upload your own photos if you want to, pull things in from Google Drive if you want to, use your webcam. Oh boy. Anyway, allow. There we go. Whatever way you want to put pictures in there. All right. And you can also add shapes. So if you wanted to add a line, for example, one thing that I like to do is to outline like parking lots and such. Oops, messed that up. Delete that, try that again. So you can outline the parking lot, and once you get back to the beginning, it'll kind of shade in the shape there. You can say parking and save, and then you can actually change the color of it. So if you wanted to make it green, for example, just to make it stand out, you could do that as well. The other thing you can do is use the ruler. So if you needed to like measure, for example, the parking lot, you can see how it is measuring as I outline it. So that's pretty cool. So think of all the different uses that you could have for this, right? And I'm going to actually take you to an example that I made here, where I kind of did a couple examples for you. Like, for example, if you were doing a historical map, right, you could have a layer for the history of the town. And so I live in Westmoreland, so I created just a few little pins just to showcase a few things for Westmoreland, New York, and then the one-room schoolhouse. And when I click on each of these, of course, it pops up, and the information, you know, about when it was settled, and the Wikipedia information. And if you scroll down, you can see I put a link to the town's website in there, and so on. And then the one-room schoolhouse, I actually did a little virtual tour using Screencastify. So let me show you that real quick. We're going to go on a tour of the one-room schoolhouse today in Westmoreland, New York. So where in the world is Westmoreland, New York? Let's find out. So here it is, and you can see that I live in the southern part of Westmoreland, New York. But for today's adventure, we are going to zoom in right here in town. Now, when you go to visit Westmoreland, you will notice that this road right here has our town offices on it. And right next to that, there's this little tiny house, and that is a replica of a one-room schoolhouse that used to be used here in town. Let's take a closer look. So here we are on Station Road. And as I said earlier, our town offices are over here. And here is our one-room schoolhouse. Lots of the students come here on field trips. You can schedule appointments to be able to go inside, and they have it an exact replica of what it would have looked like back when it was actually used. So I encourage you to go check it out and take a field trip one day. So I used Google Earth in order to do that. So I used the satellite view in combination with Street View, which we're going to talk about a little bit more when we get into the Google Earth demonstration. But I also use Screencastify to record myself there doing like a little Google tour. So think of all of the places in the world that you could possibly go, like pretty much anywhere. You could go to different, you know, national parks. You can go to different historical locations that around the world that you're studying in history. You can plot, political maps. Like there's pretty much anything you can do, and you can always create a virtual tour of any of that using Screencastify or any other screen recorder and narrate and create a little video. So that's a really cool way to really get some multimedia into your maps. So let's go back and let's look at some of the other things. So you can see I just put a link to the Google Drive file right there. And then I also put a link to their Facebook page for the Historical Society as well. Over here, and this is a layer that I can turn off if I don't want to see it anymore, or turn it on. Then I decided I wanted to plot the setting of the Sign of the Beaver book. So in Sign of the Beaver, there's a boy and his father who builds a cabin out in the wilderness in Maine. So I pinned Maine. I didn't have an exact location, so I just did, the state of Maine. And if you zoom out, you could see that better. And since they had a cabin, I put a brown house for my little icon there. And I found a picture of what their cabin may have looked like. Of course, this is just in a museum, so it's not out in the woods or anything, but that's a picture of what it could have looked like. And I put some information about the year that the story took place. And then in the book, the father leaves Matt in Maine to kind of guard the cabin while he goes to get the rest of the family down in Quincy, Massachusetts. So I added Quincy, and I added the book title. I couldn't really find any pictures I liked, so and a little description of why they went to Quincy in the book. And so I also added directions from Maine to Quincy with walking, because remember, they didn't have cars back then. So this will help students to really visualize what's taking place as they read a novel and where the characters are going, and kind of give them an idea, why was Matt's father gone so long? Why was Matt alone for such a long time? Well, it's probably because he had to walk across several states and bring the family back. Not only walk down there, but also walk back with the family, right? So the reason that I added the directions with walking is because if you click on these three dots, you can get step-by-step directions. And it opens up this new little window, and it shows you, oh, you're walking 252 miles, which would probably take, if you were walking the entire time and at a good pace, 3 days, 11 hours, and 11 minutes. Now, of course, we know he stopped along the way to sleep, and he may have been walking faster or slower, especially when he was coming back with, children. He was probably walking a lot slower. And carrying all sorts of goods with him and whatnot. So it's a really good conversation starter when you're talking about the setting of a novel. Okay, so then I'll turn those off. Then I plotted the population of some towns around where I live. And I'm going to zoom back in again. And so what I did was I made the icons into little people with question marks, and I changed the style to add some labels. So you can see with each of these, it has a number next to it, which is the population in 2010, and I got that data from Wikipedia from the 2010 census. So I labeled my layer 2010 population, and then I put a pin on each town, and then within each of them, if you click on a pin, for example, I put the population as the description. So, for example, Westmoreland has 6,138 people. Then what I did is over here, you get to like stylize your pins. So I did, for set label, I did description instead of name. If I had done name, it would have said Westmoreland next to the pin, but I did description, so it actually says the population next to the pin. So as you click on them, you can also see it here as well, but the reason I chose not to have the, because you could flip-flop it. You could have Westmoreland pop up on the map and then have the, the population pop up over here. But since the map already has names on it, like I can kind of see Clark Mills right here, so I don't really need that label there because it's kind of already there. So I can just look, oh hey, Clark Mills has a population of 1,905 people. Utica has a population of 62,235 people. So that's just a way you can just, customize it if you're plotting data and the different ways that you can show that data. You could actually go in and you can change the way it looks, like if I chose style by data and my data is in the description, so I click on that, it will kind of color code it. I don't know. That's not exactly what I was going for. So I put individual styles. So there's that. Another idea is if you took a field trip. For example, if we went to the Utica train station on a field trip, and let me zoom in on that even more, because I was kind of detailed with that one. You could share this map with parents or people who are helping to chaperone the field trip. So let me go out a little bit. So what I did here is I have the train station itself labeled and then a check-in spot. So I put a star right here because when the parents or the school bus or whoever's driving arrives at the train station, I want everybody to meet at this check-in spot. And I want, if I click on it, you can see the description, meet here for attendance and group assignments. So we're going to split up into groups and a chaperone with each group, and we're going to kind of take a tour of the train station, and maybe we're taking a ride on the train too. I don't know. But I want everyone to check in, make sure that who's there and whatnot. I also outlined 2 parking lots for people to know where to park when they arrive. And then I also noted where the food was. So not only did I put a little label on it with food, but I also put a description of where that was located, which was inside the train station, in case people got confused about where to look for that. So these are just a few different examples of how you could use it. There's so many more, right? And I'm going to share actually this presentation with you because on the next slide, what I did was I gave links to different websites where they have tons and tons of ideas of how you could use maps in your classroom. So there's Google's actual education guide, which has great stuff. And then Matt Miller from Ditch That Textbook did a blog with 20 ways that you can use My Maps. And then also there was a Google Teacher podcast with more activities for how to use My Maps in your classroom. And it's across content levels. Like there's maps for math, believe it or not. Like you can find like geometric shapes, you can measure things, you can do all sorts of crazy things. There's so many applications for science. And plotting different data. One of the examples was like something about biomes, and you could make a layer for each biome, and lots and lots of great things. So remember again, before we move on to Google Earth, just to review, you're starting out in Drive, you're going to New, More, Google My Maps, and now that I've created one, this is what it looks like in Drive. It has the little red icon there. And you can also, like you do with any other Google Doc, right click on it. You can share it from here as well. And then you can also hop right on over to your Google Classroom and create a new assignment. Now, if you have your students collaborating, this is a great way to assign it because all you have to do is give it a title, click Add from Google Drive, and since I was just working on it, it should pop up right here. Demo map, we'll say. And over here, you just do the drop down and say students can edit. And then you can give directions on how you want them to edit. Like, do you want them each to add a pin? Do you want them to add a layer and then they can add all their stuff underneath that layer? Depending on what the goals of the assignment are. And then hit assign. Now, that will work if they're collaborating. However, there is a little glitch that hasn't been ironed out by Google yet. I hope they fix it soon, but you cannot actually make a copy for each student yet. Watch what happens. When I hit assign, I get, oops, there was an error, please try again. So unfortunately, you cannot make a copy of a map for each student. So if you're doing an individual assignment, you'd have to have the students create their own and then submit it to you. So what does that look like, right? So let's pretend this wasn't here at all, right? Attach your map and submit, I'll say. So you assign it with nothing, and then they go in and attach it. And I don't have my student account set up right now, but basically they'd open it up, they'd hit attach, and they'd go to Google Drive and find it and attach it that way. But yeah, signing it up as giving it as an assignment that's collaborative works perfectly in Google Classroom. So that is awesome. Whew. All right, so that's Google My Maps in a nutshell. So now let's take a look at Google Earth. So Google Earth isn't necessarily something that you can find in your Google Drive. You can't create it from your Google Drive, we'll put it that way, but you can save it to your Google Drive. So you can see right here I have a Google Earth project and it has the little blue icon. So how do you start one? There's a couple different ways, as with anything in Google. You can go over here to your waffle menu and you can scroll down until you see Google Earth. That's one way to do it. And of course you could just Google Earth and things like that. Okay, so once you're in Google Earth, similar to My Maps, you can zoom in and out in the bottom right hand corner, but you'll notice now it's not like your basic map like you would see when you're driving, right? This is like a 3D, like interactive, like satellite view, which gives us some more options, right? You'll also notice that down here you have your little street view guy, which you did not have in Google My Maps. So you can go in at a street view level if it's available, and you can look around you and see what's going on. So let's just give it a shot. This is what I used, by the way, to create that Screencastify video earlier. So all I did was I searched for Westmoreland, and it just flies me to Westmoreland. And I just zoomed in and found the location I wanted. And when you drag the little guy for street view, he only goes on the blue areas. So if there's a street that doesn't have street view available, it will not be blue. So you can drop yourself wherever and look at it in street view. So let's say you wanted to build a project just like you did in My Maps. Over here on the left, one of your options down here, nope, right here, the one that looks like a little pin on a map, is projects, and you can go to new project and create a project. And it saves right to your Google Drive, which is awesome. Give it a description, and then you add features to it. So you could either search, you could like move the map around and like drop a pin. or you could draw a line or shape, kind of like I did around the parking lots earlier. So let's say I wanted to add a place mark. I would just click on the map, one room schoolhouse, and it says what project do you want to add it to. I want to add it to the one I'm currently in, so I can hit save, or I can hit edit, or I can hit save and then edit it later. So you'll see once I hit save, it drops the pin there, and I also see it over here on the left, and I can click the pencil to edit it. Once you're editing it, similar to my maps, you can add pictures. Let's see. There's the picture. You can add as many pictures as you want by just clicking this and adding them. And your description box, you actually have a little more options, which is kind of nice. In Google My Maps, it's very basic. Here you can stylize your text, as a heading, a subheading, or normal. You can add hyperlinks in there so you don't have to have that long, stringy, ugly URL. You can make things bold and italicized and whatnot. So I'm going to put one, let's make this a heading. And we'll do one room schoolhouse, and then we'll change it to normal text, and we'll put, actually I want to go back and make this bold too. And then come here on a field trip for more information. Visit our website. And I don't have the website URL, but you would highlight it, click the little link, and put the URL right there, and it would make it a hyperlink, which is much, much nicer than putting that URL in there. You have the option to change the info box that I just typed in. You can make it small like it is right now. You can make it large if you have to type like paragraphs of information. You could also get rid of it altogether if you don't need it. You could also change your pin just like we did before. So you could click show advanced options. You got, the color of the label, which is the words. You can make that stand out. You have the color of the pin right here, so you can make that stand out. You can change the size of it. Maybe you want it really big. Maybe you don't, I don't know, whatever. So many different options that you'd have to play with. You can even load your own custom icon, which is kind of cool. So you've got all of that, and then probably what I think is the most important anyway is you can customize your view. So right now we're kind of looking at it from like a bird's eye view. You can use this, remember this is 3D satellite imaging, so you can move it around. So if you hold down the shift key on your keyboard and kind of use your mouse, see how I can change it? That's kind of cool, right? Or even better yet, since this location has street view, I can drop my little guy in there. Come on, why didn't you go? Maybe I have to zoom in more. Oh, here he goes. All right, and I want to walk. That's good, I guess. And I can click capture this view, and then it kind of saves that as like my default for when someone clicks on this later when they're watching my project. Right, so I'm going to click the back arrow because I'm done with the one-room schoolhouse, and then I can continue to add more and more things. So I'd like to jump over to one that I've already created. And in this one, I kind of did like a timeline of my life and all of the different places that I've lived in my life. And some of them had street view and some of them didn't. And some of them I had some great memories with, so I added some photos. So I just wanted to show what this looks like. So in editing view, this is what it looks like. Here's all my stuff, right? But I'm going to use the present feature because this is kind of what you would showcase if you were, finished with your project. So, Windy Acres Farm is where I was born, and you can see I used the bold feature to make Windy Acres bold, right? And I added some pictures, some paintings of it, some photographs of it, and a picture of me next to the sign. And this is what it looks like. There's no street view, so I just did the satellite map and kind of angled it a little bit so you were like looking at it from like the street and you got to see the fields around the barn and everything else. Then it seems like a slideshow when you're presenting. So not only did I have like a mini slideshow of the pictures, but down here in the bottom I have a slideshow of each of the locations on the map. So I'm going to hit the arrow to go to the next location, and I love this part because it like sucks you out and kind of plops you right on the next location. So here was an apartment that I moved to, and then fly across town to another apartment that I moved to, and then fly back to the farm because I moved back in with my dad. And I actually, at this point in my life, I got married and things like that, so I have some wedding photos on the farm attached to this, which is fun. And then my first home, and then moved upstate because my husband and I love snowmobiling and we wanted to live closer to Tug Hill, and plop you down on the street in front of my current home. And I added some nice snow pictures to emphasize how much we love the snow. So that can be really fun because it's more interactive, and you can put like different views in there. You can do the street view, you can do the satellite view, and things like that. I did not see an option to add layers. Not sure if it's possible. I'm kind of new to Google Earth, but I thought that it was a cool option as an alternative to the Google Maps, and I love it. So with this, you want to make sure that you go to your share options. And again, you can collaborate on this. You can have multiple students in there working on the same one. You can do it individually, whatever your preference is. But again, you want to go down to Get Link. You want to make sure that anyone with the link can view, so that when you go to that present option, you can share it with other people. So you would actually want to click this URL here as you're presenting and like post it somewhere, or you can embed it in a Google site or whatever you'd like to do. Because when I hit this back arrow, you'll notice that the URL changes, and that's kind of like my editing view, so to speak, and you don't want to share that with folks. So anyway, that is your quick intro to Google My Maps and Google Earth. And so you can see the similarities. You can plot points in both of them, locations, you can add information. Some is more detailed than others. But in My Maps, you can add text, you can add links, and so on. I did want to point out that in My Maps, if you are in a pin, for example, and you're editing the description, if you want to go down to the next line, you can't just hit return or enter on your keyboard. Excuse me, because it'll just save your pin. So what you want to do is hold the shift key on your keyboard and then hit return, and it'll go down to the next line. So that's just a little tip for you. So I'll stay on the chat a little bit. If you'd like to ask any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. I hope you enjoy this. I hope your students enjoy this. It's so much fun to travel and to create maps and to be creative. So have a great day. Bye.